Before we begin, welcome to the channel. If you enjoy heartfelt stories filled with mystery, family secrets, and emotional twists, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every story here is written to remind us that sometimes the hardest truths are also the ones that heal us the most. Now let's begin. Some nights arrive so quietly that you never imagine they'll divide your life into a before and an after. The evening had started like every other Tuesday. Rain tapped gently against the kitchen window while I packed tomorrow's lunches. The television hummed softly in the living room, though no one was really watching it. My husband was finishing paperwork at the dining table, and my 14-year-old son Noah had disappeared into his room after dinner with nothing more than a tired smile and a quick good night. It should have been an ordinary evening. Instead, it became the night I realized that the people we love can carry burdens so heavy that they learn to smile while breaking apart inside. I was drying the last dinner plate when I heard it. A voice. At first, I assumed Noah was talking to one of his friends through his headphones. Teenagers did that all the time. I smiled to myself and continued wiping the counter. Then I noticed something strange. There wasn't another voice. Only Noah's. His words were slow, hesitant, almost as if he were answering questions no one else could hear. Curiosity nudged me toward the hallway. The house felt unusually still. Every floorboard seemed louder beneath my feet. Even the rain outside had softened into a whisper. As I reached his bedroom door, I raised my hand to knock. Then I froze. I don't know how much longer I can pretend. His voice cracked. I keep telling everyone I'm fine, but I'm not. A chill traveled down my spine. Those weren't the words of a teenager chatting with friends. Those were the words of someone carrying a secret. I stood there in silence, unsure whether to interrupt or walk away. Then he spoke again. I'm scared they'll hate me if they ever find out. My heart tightened. Every instinct told me to open the door immediately, but another part of me knew he deserved privacy. For several long seconds, I couldn't move. Finally, I knocked softly. The room fell completely silent. A moment later, the door opened just a few inches. Noah looked at me with wide, startled eyes. Mom. His voice was calm now, too calm. The sadness I'd heard only seconds earlier had vanished behind a practiced smile. Everything okay? I asked gently. He nodded almost instantly. Yeah, just talking to myself. It sounded rehearsed. Children don't realize parents spend years learning the difference between a genuine smile and one carefully built to hide pain. I made some hot chocolate. I lied. I thought you might want a cup. His shoulders relaxed slightly. Thanks. We sat together on the edge of his bed. Steam curled from the mugs between us. Neither of us spoke. Sometimes silence says more than questions ever can. I studied the room around us. Family photos still covered his shelves. His science trophies collected dust beside stacks of comic books. Nothing appeared unusual. Yet something invisible had changed. Finally, I asked the question that had been growing inside me since the hallway. Noah, are you carrying something you don't think you can tell us? He stared into the cup. For nearly a minute he didn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Do you ever feel like everyone only sees the version of you that's easiest to love? The question caught me completely off guard. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I let him continue. People think I'm doing great at school. He forced a weak laugh. They think because I get good grades, everything else must be perfect. He looked toward the rain outside. But sometimes I feel invisible. Those words broke something inside me. Not because they were dramatic. Because they were honest. Parents spend years making sure their children have food, clothes, school supplies, birthdays, vacations, and opportunities. Sometimes we forget to ask the simplest question. How are you really? I reached over and placed my hand gently on his shoulder. You never have to earn our love. His eyes filled with tears. I know. No, I said softly. I don't think you do. He looked down again. I've been pretending for months. Every sentence felt heavier than the last. I smile because I don't want anyone worrying. I joke because it's easier. I keep saying I'm okay because everyone expects me to be. The room became painfully quiet. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far away. For the first time in months, My son wasn't hiding behind perfect grades or polite answers. He was simply being honest. And honesty can be terrifying. I don't know how to fix what I'm feeling, he admitted. I just know I'm tired. Not physically. Emotionally. The difference was impossible to ignore. I wrapped my arms around him. He didn't resist. In fact, he held on tighter than he had since he was a little boy frightened by thunderstorms. That embrace lasted several minutes. Neither of us cried loudly. The tears simply came. Quietly. Honestly. When he finally spoke again, he whispered something that changed how I saw parenting forever. I didn't need you to solve everything. He swallowed hard. I just needed someone to notice. Those words stayed with me long after that night ended. Because sometimes the greatest act of love isn't having all the answers. Sometimes it's simply paying attention before silence becomes loneliness. Little did I know, that conversation was only the beginning. The truth Noah had been carrying wasn't just about him. It was about our entire family. And before the week was over, one forgotten letter hidden inside an old shoebox would reveal a secret that had been buried for nearly 20 years. The next morning, the house looked exactly the same. Sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows. The coffee maker gurgled in its familiar rhythm. The smell of toasted bread drifted through the air. And my husband, Daniel, sat at the table scrolling through the morning news as though nothing in the world had changed. But everything had changed. At least for me. After Noah's confession the night before, I couldn't stop replaying his words. I didn't need you to solve everything. I just needed someone to notice. Those words echoed louder than any alarm clock. Noah came downstairs a few minutes later, wearing his school hoodie. He smiled politely, grabbed a piece of toast, and thanked me for breakfast. To anyone else, he looked perfectly normal. But now I recognized the effort behind that smile. I realized how many times I had mistaken silence for peace. As he headed toward the front door, I stopped him. Have a good day. He nodded. I'll try. It wasn't the answer I expected. It wasn't the answer any parent wants to hear. After everyone left, the house became painfully quiet. Normally I would begin cleaning immediately, but instead I wandered through the hallway, lost in thought. As I passed Noah's bedroom, the door stood slightly open. For a moment I hesitated. Every parent knows that strange feeling. The battle between respecting your child's privacy and worrying that something important is hiding behind a closed door. I wasn't looking for secrets. I was looking for understanding. Inside, everything seemed neat. His desk was organized. Books were stacked carefully. His guitar rested in the corner beside a backpack filled with homework. Nothing suggested that anything was wrong. Then my eyes landed on a small wooden box tucked beneath the bed. It looked old. Dust covered its edges, as though it hadn't been touched in years. I almost ignored it. Then curiosity won. When I pulled it into the light, I realized it wasn't locked. Inside were photographs, old birthday cards, movie tickets, drawings Noah had made when he was little. Each item seemed ordinary until I noticed an envelope folded beneath everything else. There was no stamp, no address, only one word written across the front. Dad. My heart skipped. The handwriting wasn't Noah's. I stared at the envelope for several seconds. Should I open it? No. It clearly wasn't mine. I slipped it back exactly where I had found it. Some mysteries deserve patience. That evening Noah returned from school looking exhausted. Instead of disappearing into his room, he sat beside me while I prepared dinner. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. Eventually he spoke. Mom. Yes. Have you ever been afraid to tell Dad something? The question surprised me. I thought carefully before answering. Your father loves deeply. I smiled softly. But sometimes he struggles to show it in the right way. Noah nodded as though confirming something he'd already suspected. I don't want him to think less of me. He won't. You don't know that. His reply wasn't angry. It was frightened. Before I could respond, Daniel walked into the kitchen carrying grocery bags. The conversation ended immediately. Noah forced another smile. Another mask. Another performance. That night, after Noah went upstairs, I told Daniel everything. Not every detail. Just enough for him to understand that our son was hurting. Daniel listened quietly. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. I thought he was just being a teenager. So did I. I've been working so much lately. His voice trailed off. I didn't even notice. There was guilt in his eyes. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that settles deep inside a parent. We need to be there for him, I said. Daniel nodded. I know. For the first time in weeks, we weren't discussing bills, schedules, or chores. We were discussing our family. The next few days passed slowly. Noah spoke a little more. He laughed occasionally. But something still seemed unfinished. It felt as though he had only revealed the surface of what was truly bothering him. Then Friday evening arrived. I was folding laundry when I heard voices in the garage. Daniel and Noah. They thought I couldn't hear them. I found the letter, Noah admitted. Silence. What letter? Daniel asked quietly. The one Grandpa wrote before he died. My hands froze. Grandpa? Daniel's father had passed away nearly 18 years earlier. I wasn't supposed to read it, Noah continued. But I did. Another long silence followed. When Daniel finally answered, his voice sounded different. Almost shaken. You weren't ready to know about that. I wasn't ready to find it either. I stood completely still. Every instinct told me to walk away. But every word pulled me closer. What does it mean? Noah asked. Daniel took a slow breath. It means our family has been carrying a secret for a very long time. My heartbeat quickened. A secret? One no one had ever mentioned? The garage door opened before I could hear anything else. Daniel stepped inside. The moment our eyes met, I knew. He knew I had overheard enough to realize something was terribly wrong. We need to talk, he said quietly. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. I followed him into the living room. Noah joined us a few moments later, still holding the old envelope in trembling hands. Daniel looked from me to our son. Then back again. There are things about our family I've never told either of you. The room became completely silent. I thought I was protecting everyone. He looked down. But maybe all I've done is keep us apart. No one interrupted. No one moved. Finally, Daniel unfolded the fragile letter. Its paper had yellowed with age. The handwriting was uneven. Written by a man who knew his time was running out. Daniel's voice shook as he began reading the first sentence aloud. If you're reading this, then I've waited too long to tell you the truth. The room seemed to stop breathing. And in that moment, I realized Noah's struggle wasn't the only secret waiting to be uncovered. The past was finally catching up with all of us.